April 7th, 2021, Prudential Committee Subcommittee, Cotuit School Committee. We'll start with roll call. Jackie Barton,
Here.
James Danhauser,
Here.
DJ McKinnon,
Here.
Ron Mycock's not here. Adam Zace,
Here.
Tom Hoppenstadt. No. Mark Lynch. No. Fran Parks present. Ray Perone.
Here.
And Chief Rude
Here.
present. Thank you. So before we start, did everyone get the minutes that I sent out
Yes,
and have a
thank you.
chance to review them?
Yes, and
Yes.
And there any additions, corrections?
they seemed fine to me.
All right, so I'll accept motions to accept the minutes of March 25th and March 22nd, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so I thought the open meeting that we had went extremely well. And we had 84 attendees from what I understand. The only thing I would like to suggest is that perhaps we might think about having some open houses at the school so that people can see, for themselves, those that haven't been in the school, because there are quite a few people now living in the village who are parents of children who actually went to the school.
That's a great idea.
I think it's a good idea. The other thing I was thinking about is, do we want to try to have additional general communication to residents, but maybe we wait until we know what we're going to be asking people to vote on.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that I'm going to be bringing up at the Prudential Committee meeting next week, having the annual meeting at the school.
And are we going to be able, it depends obviously on the guidance, right? Are we able to have indoor meetings at this point? depending on people we have?
Well, I don't know what the governor says, but we are apparently, because we're a municipality, we're immune from some of those restrictions. Last year, the Barnstable Village had their meeting in the county meeting room.
I think if we can have the meeting at the school, it'd be great.
And if they can go to school and be 3 feet apart in the school, then they can certainly sit 3 feet apart. And, everybody seems to forget that the rule is you wear a mask or be 6 feet apart. It's not mask and 6 feet apart. So, and I think that there's plenty of room and we should be able to get as many people as that want to come in there. I think we'd be able to get more people in there than we can in the parking lot of the baseball field. So Jim, do you have anything else?
Two other things. One is somebody also asked me whether people will be allowed to vote by absentee ballot.
About the school? No,
At the annual district meeting.
no,
Okay.
they can't vote by absentee ballot for the annual district meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Just a point of information. And then the other thing was just a point of discussion about what exactly we're going to be asking of the voters to vote on at the annual district meeting. So we had a Civic Association board meeting last night, and there was a lot of discussion about the timing of everything that we're trying to do. And in particular, should we be asking for approval at the annual district meeting to demolish the building? And the general sense there, plus from other people I've spoken to, is that that's probably premature, both because we don't necessarily have a good fixed number on demolition, and because we haven't frankly had the opportunity to have an actual negotiation with the town to see if we can't get them to absorb some of that cost. And since the demolition is not in the CIP for fiscal year 23, the soonest it can obviously be approved is 24, which means it happens late, in, I got my years reversed. It's not in fiscal 22. The earliest it can be approved is fiscal 23, which means it happens late in 23 if it's even approved then. So that, is I think the issue is, what are we going to be actually asking the voters to vote on at the annual district meeting? And that's the Prudential Committee's decision, obviously.
Well, my opinion is what we should be asking for them to vote on is, do we want to accept the building or don't we? I think it's that simple. Yes, yes or no. And any other decision comes after that. They have to decide if they want to accept the building. And the cost of accepting a building, in terms of legal costs, title insurance, contingency funds, liability,
But not demolition.
but not demolition. No.
Right. Because that gives us the time to negotiate with the town and talk about what the alternatives might be.
I seriously doubt that the town is going to give us any funds to help us with the school.
I share that doubt. Although I think everybody feels like they should, in the general sense, with why should Cotuit taxpayers pay for it? It's a town-wide issue and we pay taxes for everything else. But as I've said to other people, wishing it so doesn't make it so.
Yeah, they haven't lived in Cotuit long enough to realize that, we're really an afterthought in terms of town hall. And, the other thing is that they could, just because it's not on the list to be demolished, doesn't mean that they can't, put an RFP out for somebody who wants to, purchase a property and demolish it themselves.
Yeah, and build something, right?
Yeah. So,
Right, and ultimately the protection of the water is the key thing.
correct.
Fran, when you said we should ask the voters if they want to accept the building, I'm assuming that you meant the building and the land,
Yes.
and that we defined it within the PowerPoint as basically 8 acres, including the forested land. And that is because somebody asked me the question, or raised the question, concern, if you will, about the town holding on to the recreational component and what would happen down the road. And I reminded that person that it was our intention to ask for a conservation restriction to protect that. In other words, I think people are with us all the way to protect it, because it's kind of like our little central park, so to speak, in a funny sort of way. And I've certainly, since I got involved with this project, I've spent a lot more time kind of looking around, and people use that all the time. And so, well, that's simply by way of saying that we need to make sure that it's the building and the 8 acres of land, and also, if we can, to within that district vote, define the fact that we'd like to see a conservation restriction on the remaining land.
So that they can't do anything other than what's there at the moment.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, you could define it broadly to basically say the 8 acres coming to us would be for water protection, and to further protect the water, we asked the town to place a conservation restriction on the remaining recreational land to ensure that the water quality is protected into the future. Something like that.
I certainly think we can do that, and I certainly think the villagers would approve of that. I don't recall, I'm not aware of the town ever getting rid of any recreational land. They seem to keep on purchasing recreational land, even if it doesn't get used. So,
Yeah, we just probably shouldn't take the risk, though.
yeah.
I have a question. That conservation restriction is not something that has been agreed to at this point, as I understand it.
Nothing's agreed to, Adam.
Right. So asking the voters to, I can imagine this as in the warrant. Is it disingenuous in any way to say that other than that's what our intent is. I would hate to lead people down a path where they feel like they're voting for, oh, we get the building, we get the land, and we have this conservation restriction when that hasn't been agreed to. So it might be worth being very careful about how we construct the actual
Yeah, the
warrant
word
article.
article, yeah, correct.
Of course, none of it's been agreed to, Adam. The land hasn't been agreed to, the building hasn't been agreed to, the conservation restriction hasn't been agreed to. So the
But I
point
like
applies to all.
yeah, I like Fran's kind of construction. Do you want to do this? And here are the things that you're asking. I don't know if it's a warrant. I don't know how you're going to manage this, Fran, but asking for sort of a yay, nay, or up or down kind of thing about this plan makes sense. But I'm just wondering about the wording of the article. That's all. I mean, it's not my job to worry about that, except to worry about it.
So Adam, I think what I hear you saying is that you don't want, you're concerned about us getting too specific in the warrant article without having had conversations with the town.
Right. I would hate to leave people who might sort of come to this late and or not necessarily carefully read things or be just sort of lackadaisical or whatever, thinking, oh, I voted for something and it not coming to pass, and that as an example.
Well, and you could break it down so that you had more than one vote taken. One of them could be just that basically just says something like the voters of the Cotuit Fire District, hereby support the concept of, and go on and authorize the Prudential Committee to negotiate on the district's behalf. So that you're basically just laying it out there to say, and first and foremost in there, I would say to protect the water supply would be within the confines of that. But basically it's just what's the intention of the voters of the district, and the intention is to protect the water supply, and in order to protect the water supply, to protect a portion of the land.
I'm in 100% or 1,000% agreement with all that. Fran and her committee are going to have to be just have to be careful with the wording. That's all, I suspect.
Well, we'll have to go through the wording with Mark Boudreau to make sure that it's
Sure.
exactly what we want.
Yeah. So you can separate out the due diligence part. And I saw what Ray put forward in terms of the due diligence and wondered whether that was actually enough for us to get to where we need to go.
Well, the one thing that's not covered there is any consultant to examine the cost of demolition or to begin any kind of further study of alternative use.
Right. Yeah, but I think that would be a separate article.
Yeah, that's what I envisioned. This was just the up or down vote. Do you want it or not? And by voting yes, you would incur or enable the Prudential Committee to incur those costs.
Yeah.
Well, I think
at least.
No, you can't do at least, I don't believe.
No,
You
I
can't do
don't.
it
But it's just.
It'd be nice if you could.
I think an article to hire a consultant to evaluate the property for other uses such as district offices and or a fire station has to be a separate article, on that. And Ray, I have a question on the acquisition costs. You say phase 1 ESA estimate. What's ESA?
That's environmental survey assessment,
Okay.
which is the standard for acquiring a piece of property to identify environmental risks. The one thing I have a question that I put to this committee is I also got a quote on insuring the building for 1 year. I don't know if you want to include that in the acquisition costs as well.
I would.
I agree.
Well, if you do that, then you have to have something for utilities and maintenance, right?
I've got, well, I passed some figures to Paul, who's been more involved in this than, longer than I have. And between the two of us, I think we can compile that. One of the things that Paul had suggested, which I think is a very good idea, is not to worry about heating the building, mothball it,
Yeah.
and drain the system so you don't incur that cost. And that will lower the maintenance cost for that first year while you're making the determination.
And we just need the electricity for the alarm system.
Yeah.
So,
I'll expand it for the insurance. And well, Paul's got a better handle. I don't want to get ahead of him on the operating costs. So I'll pass what I have to Paul and we'll get it back to you folks.
okay.
Fran, one of the things that I had said to Jim, and I think I copied you on it, but maybe not. My concern was that we really put ourselves out there in the community and we don't have, we haven't had any discussions with anybody that has any power at the town.
Right.
David Anthony has no power. He had a committee of 5 town councilors. The last vote that they had was to demolish the building.
Yep.
My understanding is that that committee itself has now been abolished.
It
Correct.
has.
And so it feels to me like we really need to, in advance of the district meeting, have a sit down with Mark Ells and if necessary, go before the town council to get a read to make sure that we're not, on a fool's errand here. Because we really would look like fools if we went out and raised all this money and all this expectation, only to have the town council say, nah, we're not interested. So I say that because I think that it would be easy to set up a meeting with Mark Ells and basically say, what would you recommend?
Yeah.
I also think that since the town really wants to get rid of this white elephant, can I call it that, that there are things that they might be willing to do to help make it happen that won't officially cost them money, but would cost them staff time. And I outlined that in a memo too, which included things like, drawing up a subdivision plan, and things like that. So do you want our committee, Mark, Jim and I, to try to reach out to the town manager and have that discussion?
I don't know if, if he would discuss it with you or if he'd want to actually discuss it with an elected official.
Well, I mean, you can come too. I don't,
Yeah.
you set us up as a negotiating committee, but I didn't mean to exclude you.
No,
So, when I worked with the town on land acquisition projects, what we would do is go to the town manager. The town manager then would bring in the people that he thought would need to be involved in that project, including, for instance, the town attorney. Or, if we were looking to raise money, sometimes it would be the finance director. So, or in this case, it might be Dan Santos with the DPW or somebody else like that, so that we get the right people talking about it. And I would say you'd want Jessica there too.
yeah, right.
But my goal is to make sure that we're communicating at the town level with the right person who ultimately can't make the decision without the town council taking a vote.
So
Well, actually,
Jackie,
that's not true. Jessica has told me that technically the town manager could do an intergovernmental transfer without town council approval, though we both felt that it would be highly unlikely that he would be prepared to do that.
Right, right.
I also, the other question, of course, Jackie, involved with that is starting that discussion makes perfect sense, but we also then need to, at the same time, be raising the notion that, we do need to get help with demolition costs because, we can't start the discussion without raising that as part of the negotiation, if we're
Right.
going to negotiate that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what I would do is put absolutely everything on the table and basically wait till they say no. It's
I
like,
completely agree.
here's what we need, yes, 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 no.
So I think these are great suggestions, Jackie. Is it my understanding that from your knowledge that there has been no conversation with between David Anthony and his group and Mark Ells about this subject?
I will tell you that we don't know.
Okay.
The Asset Management Advisory Committee was dissolved. I've been told by Jessica that we should not read anything into that as it relates to this property because it was an across-the-board elimination of committees that were not inside of the administrative code. They just felt that they had ended up with too many committees, getting people stretched too thin at the town council level.
I see.
So we do know that David Anthony has had conversations with people on the committee. I would speculate without certain knowledge that it would be unlikely that he would not have made Andy Clyburn aware of it. Andy is the assistant town manager. Yes, Paul? Paul, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I had a conversation with Andy Clyburn. He said he fully expects the town to transfer the property to the Cotuit Fire District. He is in full support of that and has no intention of negotiating the property with anybody else.
Right. And
How long ago did you have that conversation?
Within the last 3 weeks.
Wow, great. Okay.
I can get a date to you. I don't remember exactly when.
Jessica was fairly confident that Andy was in the know on what has gone on. So, Adam, I don't think it's that no one knows besides our conversations with David Anthony, but we don't know that for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's great to hear. But I don't think it blunts Jackie's point at all about access to power.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised that if the town manager hasn't given this to the assistant town manager to deal with.
Sure, entirely possible. Yep.
So do we want to try and set up a, try and set up a meeting with Andy or Clyburn or Mark Alves? And
I always go straight to the top. And if Mark Ells wants to push us down to Andy, fine, but I would go to Mark. Ultimately, one of two things is going to happen. Either the town manager is going to say, I have the authority to make this transfer, or it needs to go to the town council, in which case I would hope that he would have gotten the legal advice and guidance from the town attorney. If he can just transfer it, hey, that's great.
yeah,
He may be able to, Jackie, but that doesn't mean he will.
Right.
But that's what we want to know.
Yeah.
I suspect he won't tell us that. I just, but that's just my guess. We won't find out. There's no need to speculate on what he will say until we actually talk to him.
Right.
It's information he doesn't need to share at this stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would certainly be supportive co-chairs of such a portfolio for the subcommittee.
With Fran.
Yeah.
If Fran wishes to go.
No,
Absolutely.
I think I have to attend. Well, I can contact, Mr. Alves. I have his email. And see about arranging the meeting with him in our committee.
I might suggest, Fran, that you copy Jessica on that email,
Yep.
because my experience with Mark is that he's a very busy guy and he doesn't always respond to the emails that happen to come in. So Jessica will have his ear.
Okay.
Would it be worth CCing Clyburn?
Probably can't hurt.
Yeah, I don't have his email.
It's the same.
Probably,
I'll send it to you. Oh yeah, Paul, you could give it to Fran.
I would strongly suggest that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point taken about going to the top, Jackie, but we've already heard that the lieutenant, if you will, is involved. So keep them at least in the loop.
Oh,
as a
yeah,
C- yeah.
I don't have any problem with CCing people. It's just,
Yeah.
I learned a long time ago that you don't start at the bottom, you start at the top until you, and you,
Yep.
and you get kicked, and you kick down and you accept whatever place you get kicked to, but.
Yep.
But you can at least point to the fact that you communicated with the top.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Okay.
So anything further people would like to discuss?
So I just wanted to let you know that yesterday I reached out to David Keene, who's the executive director of the Cotuit Center for the Arts. It had been in the back of my mind for a while to find out whether there was any interest on the Cotuit Center's part to have a presence in the Cotuit Elementary School. And it was a very short conversation. But the way I saw it, basically, and the reason I approached him was because they had originally looked at the Marston's Mills Elementary School, then they came up with the concept of doing a campus at the Cotuit Center for the Arts, and who knows what COVID has done to them in terms of that plan, whether it's aided or hurt their timeline. But my thought was that if the school was going to be there and there was a desire on his part to start programming before he has the place to put people up at the Cotuit Center campus, that the Cotuit Elementary School might be a good place. And for those who are interested in a community building, it might also be, a good tenant, so to speak. So I'm telling you all that because David then said to me, I can meet with you on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I have no feeling for this whatsoever, except for just to see if there was interest on the Cotuit Center's part in possibly having a presence at the Cotuit Elementary School if the opportunity arose.
Well, they've used Freedom Hall as a rehearsal space, just to let you know that.
Did they pay rent for that, Fran?
No, they're a nonprofit in the
know.
village, so,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
they
Yep.
pay rent. And if this community center, we still need somebody who wants to be interested in, championing that and pushing it. I'll tell you quite honestly, I'm not a fan just because of I'm not sure that the fire district should be involved in running a community center. And I don't even know if legally, if we can have a community center in a building. We probably can because we have Freedom Hall. But that's going to require funds to support it on the district in terms of a custodian or somebody to manage it. So
Yeah, the way I looked at it, and I think I said this at the last meeting, whoever takes it over as a community center, in my view, it's not going to be the fire district. It's going to be some other entity that makes it happen. And that entity would have to be a nonprofit, would have to raise money, and maybe they could get money from the district, and especially if the district was renting space there. But that it needs to be its own little its own little organization, so to speak, of people making it happen within a building owned by the fire district. That's-
It would have to be responsible for keeping it clean, for managing it, letting people in and out, for paying the insurance,
Yep.
Right,
and
Well-
also paying a rental fee.
right. And so I'm just simply telling you, because I don't want to be the one that's driving this bus, because this is not my bus. But I did make that point of reaching out, and I am going to meet with him if anybody else is interested in that prospect. So,
Thanks, Jackie.
Any other comments or concerns?
Not for me.
Not for me.
No. So, well, then I think the next step is to get in touch with a town hall and, have a meeting with them, and then reconvene once we've met with them, and, go from there. If everyone's agreeable to that.
yeah, so schedule wise, Fran, the only time that doesn't work for me is Monday afternoons.
Okay.
Otherwise, any other time's fine.
All right. Well, I'll get in touch with him tomorrow or tonight, and Jessica, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
So if we're all set, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Fran.
Thanks.